Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win tonight. White, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win.
What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back for another video here on the Turn Up the Jets YouTube channel. Your host, as always, Joe Scurto. Before we get into the video, like the video if you actually liked it. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. You could also follow me on social media platforms on X and Instagram at Turn Up the Jets, all one word. So yesterday, the NFL trade deadline officially passed at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and the New York Jets lay a goose egg in the trade column as they do not make any moves. I'm going to dive into why they didn't, but I will kind of, give my opinions on it. I know people are one way or the other. Some people are really pissed off, and I hear, of course, the local radio go off and just throw a lot of bullshit out there saying that Joe Douglas didn't make any trades because he didn't believe in this team and he doesn't think the Jets can go anywhere. I really disagree with that. Maybe that's the message you get because Douglas didn't do anything, but there's a ton of other contending teams that didn't do anything. You look at the AFC picture, there's quite a few teams, or playoff picture rather, there's quite a few teams that are right there with the Jets that didn't make any moves. Are the Steelers better than the Jets? Are the Chargers better than the Jets? Are the Browns better than the Jets? All these teams right there. Are the Texans better than the Jets? None of those teams made moves. So I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Yes, I wish they did make a move. I know the Ezra Cleveland trade from Minnesota to Jacksonville really pissed a lot of people off as Jets fans. And I think that was the only thing that pissed me off. This is a young guard. I think he's 8th ranked in like PPF or PFF, whatever the frig it's called. I don't really look too much into those grades, especially I just found out that Breece Hall is ranked number 30th in all running backs this season. Like he's behind Zeke Elliott and like Deontay Foreman. It's absolute shit. But still, like this Ezra Cleveland dude is young. He's a guard from Minnesota. They trade him for a 6th round draft pick. Like, why can't Joe Douglas do it? I will dive into why, my conspiracy, at least why he didn't do it. But yeah, the New York Jets don't trade anybody or trade for anybody. They did trade Mecole Hardman. But they do keep Dalvin Cook. They do keep Carl Lawson. And to be honest, I think it's a smart move. I think it's really a waste of time of getting like a 6th round pick. Maybe for a guy like Dalvin Cook would make a little more sense in a 1-year deal, but he clearly didn't have a ton of interest. And I mean, I really don't blame teams, but I do like that the Jets end up keeping him because and Carl Lawson. I mean, you can never have enough depth in this league, especially if the Jets are going to try to make a push here. So I'm not mad at that. You really wanted them to trade those two guys just so you can get a trade and get a 6th round draft pick that has really no effect at all on this season. Like, you're only making your team worse at that point. So to me, if they traded all 3 of those guys, it's like, why are they selling? They should be buying. They're not sellers or buyers. They stay put. I'm not angry at Joe Douglas. Social media is funny. I see people that want Joe Douglas fired because of this. It's crazy. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like an active trade deadline in the NFL is like 5 trades. It's not like all these teams made trades and the Jets just sat on their thumbs. That's not the case here. A lot of teams didn't make moves. It's just plain and simple. Of course, the Commanders were active. They trade Montez Sweat to the Bears, which was so random, for a 2nd round pick. And then they trade Chase Young to the 49ers. The rich get richer there in the defensive line. Young goes for a 3rd round pick. So the Commanders are just kind of, blowing things up over there. We know the Leonard Williams trade. He goes for a 2 and a 5 to Seattle. Cleveland, we touched upon it, a 6th round pick. Rasul Douglas goes from Green Bay to Buffalo. I believe it was Douglas in a 5th for a 3rd. I think it's good for both sides. Those are just some of the trades. Josh Dobbs gets traded for like the 9,000th time to Minnesota. And then there really wasn't much else going on. Like this wasn't a crazy ass deadline by any means. So, I was pissed at the moment. And then, you hear things and you hear rumblings and, that's probably the reasons why the Jets didn't make a move. And of course, I'm going to get into it. It's the Evans and Adams thing. Of course, I'll just get into it now. I was going to talk a little more about other topics, but the Jets were apparently, according to Brian Costello, the writer for the New York Post for the New York Jets, has been doing it a long time. I think he's one of the trustworthy sources that the Jets have in their media, said that the Jets were really pushing to get Mike Evans or Davante Adams. And apparently at the end, neither team wanted to trade these superstar wide receivers. And I think this is why the Jets were quiet. I think they really were pushing to make a huge splash. So I think it was all or nothing. And that's why I'm not mad. This would have been an all-in type of move. So you can say, Douglas doesn't believe in this team and blah, blah, blah. He obviously does if he was trying to trade legitimate assets to get a Mike Evans or to get a Davante Adams. For Adams, I think it's becoming more realistic that the Jets will address him at the offseason and potentially trade for him. Before, I thought it was just, a bunch of rumblings and rumors and whatnot. Of course, it's because Rodgers was there. But no, I think the Raiders are really heading towards a disastrous situation. They go ahead, fire their GM, fire their head coach. And Josh McDaniels, like at midnight Eastern time yesterday, or today rather. And now they're benching Jimmy Garoppolo, who's already missed time being injured. He's thrown an interception every single one of the games he's appeared in. And now a guy who's making $45 million guaranteed is getting benched for a 4th-round draft pick out of Purdue and Aiden O'Connell. There's not a lot of good going on over there. So I'm kind of scratching my head, like, why wouldn't the Raiders deal Davante Adams? Clearly, you can see the frustrations every week. It's like building up. We saw it last week on the Rich Eisen show. We try to clear things up. Like, no, I'm happy to be a Raider. And then he's saying, I'm effing done with this bullshit on the bench. He's slamming his helmet after the loss. He just says has no words to describe the loss. Like, he's obviously miserable there. So I think this is actually a realistic shot for the Jets to go and trade for him in the offseason. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to happen, which I don't know why the Raiders don't go trade him. At this point, you're obviously throwing the season. You fire your coach and your GM. They're 3-5. It's not even like you would think this team is 0-8. It is trending towards, being that bad and losing a lot of games in a row at this point. But for me, I think what I'm looking at is that the Jets do have a chance at Davante in the offseason. Well, Mike Evans, I'm not sure. I know that he's in a contract situation as well, but this is a big reason why I didn't lose sleep last night. Well, actually, I didn't. I kind of lost a little sleep last night, but I woke up this morning, I should say, to the news that, the Jets did try to heavily pursue Adams and Evans, calling the Raiders and the Buccaneers. So I love the aggressiveness for Douglas. Yes, it failed. And you may sit there and say he still didn't make a trade. Screw him. I'm really on the other side of things. I'm not totally upset. I was maybe at the, in the moment thinking, obviously the one trade that I felt like the Jets could have made was Hunter Renfrow. I threw his name out a lot in this channel. Apparently the Saints were close to getting him to reunite him and Derek Carr. I don't think the Jets were in on him at all. Apparently they weren't looking for slot receivers. They wanted a legitimate game changer like Evans and Adams. But my thing is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's 24 years old, from the Cleveland Browns out of Michigan. He goes to the Lions for a 6th-round pick. That's another one. Like, why aren't the Jets able to trade a 6th-round pick for a Peoples-Jones or an Ezra Cleveland? Like that's the only thing I scratch my head with. But I get it. I think the Jets were more so, we're not going to do these small trades. We're either going to get Adams or Evans, or we're going to get nobody. And I think that's where Douglas' priorities were the entire time. Yesterday, he really emphasized in his presser yesterday with the media that they talked to a lot of teams. He had a lot of conversations with a lot of teams and a lot of GMs, and it's not like he legit just sat there and did nothing, which people obviously will think he did on on social media. So I'm not mad. It is what it is, and the Jets got to roll what they got. The bright side, they're 4-3. Yes, there's concern in the offensive line now due to the health. The Jets did somewhat kind of address that. They go sign Rodger Saffold. Saffold is a back-to-back Pro Bowl guard. There's kind of a trend here with the Tennessee lineman Xavier Newman, who came in last week, was kind of a sort of a hero for the Jets, filling in as the emergency center. He was in Tennessee. Saffold was in Tennessee. They also upgrade Dennis Kelly, offensive tackle, from the practice squad of the active roster. He's from Tennessee. It's obviously the Keith Carter and the Todd Downing, relationships. Carter, the offensive lineman coach, of course, and him and Downing, the passing coordinator. They have a lot of familiarity with these three guys. So the Jets just kind of load up on the former Titans offensive lineman, but Saffold's actually a really good player. He is 35 though, and he hasn't played this season. And like I said, he did make the Pro Bowl in 21 and 22, and he was a second team All-Pro back in 17. And, this is a guy who's played a lot of football, and he's probably going to be asked upon at some point in time here for the Jets. So I like this move. I think it makes sense. You kind of get more veteranship, if that's even a word, on the offensive line. Dwayne Brown is trending to come back as well. It looks like he's going to left tackle. Becton will go back to right tackle. I know this was another storyline, and I don't really care. I don't think Becton has totally earned the left tackle spot, and he said he don't give a damn as long as he plays football. I love the attitude of Becton. He's going to go back to right tackle with no complaints, and I think he's just happy to be healthy for one thing and be starting on a weekly basis. He struggled last week. I don't think Becton has ran away with this job, and yes, he's had some good games, but he's had some bad games. He's had some inconsistency for sure. Especially the last two games, between the Eagles and the Giants game. Kayvon Thibodeau absolutely had his way with him with 3 sacks. Dexter Lawrence had 15 pressures, I think it was. And then, Zach was also sacked 5 times in that Eagles game. So I'm not saying all 5 sacks is because of Mekhi, but, Mekhi isn't necessarily having this terrific year. Is he holding his own? Yeah, of course. I think half the battle is that he's still healthy, knock on wood, and I think that is huge. But I'm not going to sit here and be pissed off that, he's moving to right tackle and Dwayne Brown's going to left tackle. Look, there's already a ton of movement in this offensive line. There's guys playing guard who are usually centers, vice versa. There's tackles playing guards. Dwayne Brown's never played right tackle in his entire career. You might as well just put him where he's comfortable. Becton's proved that he's capable of playing right tackle. It just limits the more new positions for this offensive line, who's just been through hell and back so far, especially over the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping that the Jets end up getting McGovern. McGovern's going to be out for probably a while with the kneecap, but hopefully Tippmann comes back at some point. It seems like maybe he's a week to week. I don't think he'll be back this week. It's probably going to be Xavier Newman most likely as the center this week. But hopefully if Tippmann can go to center, and then you got Tomlinson and then Saffold maybe come in and play guard. Those two are your guards. And then Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton. The Jets look okay if they can hold their own and stay healthy. So the offensive line, trading for offensive linemen isn't a thing, though. And it probably triggered everybody that Cleveland again got traded, but that usually does not happen. Offensive linemen come at a premium. It's really hard to trade for one. That in defensive ends, it doesn't happen often. So, I think the Jets did what they can, maybe not enough, did what they can in terms of getting Saffold in the mix. I think he will have to play a factor at some point. La'el Collins is still out there as well. I thought he was going to be the veteran lineman the Jets bring in, but it is Saffold instead. But yeah, that's kind of my reaction there. 0 trades for the Jets. It is what it is. I don't think it has anything to do with that Douglas doesn't believe in the team and all that bullshit. I really don't believe in that narrative at all. I think we could look at Devontae Adams potentially being a New York Jet next year, especially if Aaron Rodgers is there. And I think everything is telling us that he will be. And the Jets just got to play what they got. And hopefully they could play some musical chairs with the offensive line and hope for the best. I did think the Jets could have added a receiver in the caliber I'd mentioned of a Donovan Peoples-Jones or a Henry Renfro. And even though they apparently didn't want a slot receiver, but because the Jets are pretty thin at receiver after Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard. And Lazard has been pretty inconsistent. I really like Lazard as a player, but he has been inconsistent in terms of catching the football, which is no bueno. But, it is what it is. And Randall Cobb, hopefully he comes back. He has been banged up. Asking a lot for Xavier Gibson to really come up as an undrafted rookie free agent or a guy was just going to be special teams, and now he's getting some serious time on the offensive side as a wide receiver. But it'll be interesting. This defense is still really, really good. This special teams is still really, really good, and the offense has weapons to be good. They have Garrett Wilson, they have Breece Hall, and if the offensive line could do their things, somewhat stay healthy, Zach Wilson maybe can be better. And the play calling could be better. The Jets will be A-okay, I think. It is going to be a tough game coming up, but like I said, I will be previewing that rather. That video will be dropping on Friday, most likely, with the Chargers and Jets preview. The game is on Monday night, so I will then be releasing my recap on Tuesday. But appreciate everyone for watching. Again, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Like the video if you actually liked it. You can follow me on Instagram and on X at Turn Up the Jets, all one word. Until next time, see ya.
Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team?